This video is a PLD 4 and 5 dissection and mini lesson, and it goes into detail about pages 3 through 6 of the Bluest Eye. If you have not watched the background video for the Bluest Eye, I would suggest pausing here and watching that other video on Edpuzzle first, as this will reveal even more information that will make sense after learning about more of the background context that you need to know and understand in order to dive deep into this novel. PLD 4 and PLD 5 are going to be used, or we're going to address those together. And the way that you are going to address these is by showing me that you can do these items by filling out an annotation graphic organizer. For this PLD, for both of these PLDs, you are not going to find another news article. You are going to focus on the literary aspect of each of these PLDs with the Bluest Eye. PLD 4 is where you can determine the meaning of complex words and phrases as they are used in the text, including figurative and connotative meanings, analyze and evaluate the rhetorical impact of specific word choices on meaning, mood, and tone. In other words, you can use context clues, you can make inferences to discover and understand words that are being used by an author as they are used in the text. Is something a symbol? Is it not? That means that you can analyze the figurative language, that you can say, this is why the author used this metaphor here. This is also that you can say that you can look at the connotative meanings. If you remember from last year and earlier this year, that connotation is the emotional association of a word. You can also evaluate the rhetorical impact of these word choices on how it might develop a theme or the meaning or the mood and the tone. In other words, you're really trying to use your annotating skills to discover these things about a text. I feel confident that everyone in here can already do this at an accelerated and/or advanced level. So this is your chance to prove that with me. The reason I think this is because we have already done quite a bit of annotating in this class last year and first semester. So I think you're going to be successful. You already know those basic skills. And I'm going to ask you to just show that knowledge. So it's not a lot of new things. This is really about vocabulary. PLD 5 is you're still kind of doing this. It goes in tandem because along with looking at the figurative and connotative meaning of words, PLD 5 is going to ask you to be able to analyze how an author's choices concerning how to structure a text, how to put the parts together, how to maybe label chapters, or whether there are chapters, as we will see in Toni Morrison's novel, there are not. She divides it into 4 seasons. She does so for an intentional reason. How to order in the events, flashback, flash forwards, how to manipulate the time. What does that do in regards to mystery and tension and surprise? And then examining that as a whole on how they impact the text, meaning how they impact the theme, characters, and so forth. So these two are combined because they do fit together really well. And Toni Morrison is an excellent novel to be able to show off that you can do these skills. As a reminder, before I get into the rest of the lesson here, this playlist this week is a 2-week playlist. So what I've done is I put this on Google Classroom as a to-do list, as well as in the playlist. Tomorrow, so the 17th, you will not have a Zoom session with me, but you will need to contact your group members and finish the book club activity from last week. I've already assigned it to you. You just need to figure out how you're going to get that done together, whether that is using FaceTime, etc., and make sure you submit that by 11:59. You all need to agree upon how many pages you're going to read by each book club due date. So please make sure you get that done. PLD 4 and 5 dissection and lesson, that is this Edpuzzle right now. It needs to be completed by Friday, 11:59 p.m. I would suggest completing it earlier because it will help you understand at least the beginning of the Bluest Eye. The Bluest Eye background information Edpuzzle is the other video that you need to watch that is already up on Edpuzzle. You are also going to read the Bluest Eye, and you're going to read those pages that you and your group agreed upon, and you're going to complete the PLD 4-5 graphic organizer, which, like I said, it's just an annotation graphic organizer. Instead of annotating in the book, you're doing it on digitally. You're more than welcome to write in your book. It is your book. But the thing that you're going to turn into me is that graphic organizer. But that's going to be due on the day that you come in for book club meeting, which is February 24th, next Wednesday. Now, on Monday, the 22nd, it's going to be an independent work time and conferencing session, because I know this is, that you have to get this work done. Wednesday Zoom will be devoted to that book club meeting, so make sure you have read. And those of you who are behind, please make sure that you are catching up on those previous PLD assignments. This right here, you can pause this. This is a reminder of the previous PLD assignments. Some of you may need to submit a PLD in the first place. Maybe you're revising, maybe you're reflecting, but remember, it's like the hamster wheel. You just got to keep going. Once you get done with one, you do the other. As another reminder, these are your book club groups. Please make sure that you note this. I think almost everybody was there last Wednesday, but if you weren't, it is up to you to make sure that you know this. And for any group in here that was not here, that had members not here on Wednesday, you need to be reaching out to your group members. So figurative language, that is our PLD, or one of the focuses of our PLD. And I'm going to combine with that, which you'll recall, literary terms. There are multiple, and you have probably discussed many of them in your time in an ELA class. But right now we're going to focus on 6 that I want you to start noticing. We'll add more as we delve deeper into the novel, but these are the 6. So you should pause here and jot down any notes that you need if you don't understand these. The 5 that I know you should understand, number 1, because I know I taught it last year. Number 2, we talked about it in the first semester. And number 3, it's a review. Those 5 are metaphor, allusion, simile, symbolism, and imagery. Pause here, jot down notes, etc., because you are going to be held responsible for being able to analyze them, discuss them, point them out, etc., in your annotations. The one that you do not probably know is juxtaposition. This is a fancy term to say is when the author places 2 or more things side by side, because they want you to look at the differences. So as a literary term, they want to highlight how they are different, but also it invites you as a reader to say, but how are they alike? What inferences can I make? And this usually can support ideas of theme and symbols and so forth. So because it considers those universal ideas. So as you are reading, I want you to notice what ideas, concepts, people, words, etc., are placed right next to each other. And what does Toni Morrison want us to understand about the differences, but also how they are alike? The other part of the PLD, besides for PLD 4, is that you are looking at connotative language, aka the emotional association of a word. Please understand that writers choose words very specifically and intentionally. They want to make you feel a certain way. So denotative is the dictionary definition. Connotative is how it makes you feel, the emotional association. You have an example here. I would pause, note the example, make sure you understand the example if you need to, jot something down. You've got the denotation of a bird, which is a warm-blooded egg-laying vertebrate. You have the connotation. If I said big bird, now it's not just a bird, but it's big bird, which now makes me feel happy because, ooh, I used to watch that when I was younger, and that reminds me of a happy time, etc. So a reader is going to bring their own experiences to these 2 words, and they're going to pack more of a punch. So connotation of a word can be positive, negative, or neutral. So if I would say crow, which is a type of bird, I might see that as negative because I know that sometimes that symbolizes death or the impending death or impending doom. They are scavengers of the sky. And so that could be a negative association for me. Maybe it's positive if I had a pet crow, who knows? But you have to understand that readers are going to bring their own experiences. And an author is going to try to bring that up in the reader. Like I said, PLD 5 is all about text structure. So as you read, start thinking, why does she have a prologue? Why does Toni Morrison organize it in seasons? Why is there a back and forth, flashback, flash forward? Why are there different points of view? All of that leads to that text structure part of PLD 5. So we are going to, the rest of this lesson is kind of starting the novel with you. And since I can't start it within class with you, we're starting it here. And what we talk about here can be added to your annotation graphic organizer if you would like. So as you're reading, this is the prologue, and Toni Morrison starts the prologue with references and allusions in the style of Dick and Jane. Dick and Jane were primers that taught Americans to read for several years, from the 30s, I think, till the 60s or 70s. And they were very stereotypical, which some of you noticed as you guys were completing the book club activity. And that's what I wanted you to notice. And so you got to start thinking to yourself, why would Toni Morrison start her novel in this way? What is her point? Because this hasn't, because she's not mentioning any of her characters yet, but she is starting the novel in this way. So as I read this, I'm going to read just a section. I'm not going to read it all, but I do think you need to pause and read it, or read it in your own book. I want you to be thinking, noticing how the sentences are structured. I want you to notice what you see about the content. And I want you to think about in terms of stereotypes, because if your mind went there, you were correct. So here's the house. It is green and white. It has a red door. It is very pretty. Here is the family. Mother, father, Dick, and Jane live in the green and white house. They are very happy. See Jane, she has a red dress. She wants to play. Who will play with Jane? See the cat, it goes meow, meow. Come and play. Come play with Jane. The kitten will not play. You need to start thinking about, why won't the kitten play with Jane? What's wrong with Jane? Because this is going to connect later in the novel. See Mother? Mother is very nice. Mother, will you play with Jane? Mother laughs. Laugh, Mother, laugh. See Father? He is big and strong. Father, will you play with Jane? Father is smiling. Smile, Father, smile. See the dog? Bow wow goes the dog. Do you want to play with Jane? See the dog run. Run, dog, run. Again, start thinking to yourself, why are the animals running away from Jane, the young girl in this book, in this, that you see on the side here? See the dog run. Here comes a friend. The friend will play with Jane. They will play a good game. Play, Jane, play. So one of the things that you should notice is that these are a lot of simple sentences, because this was based on a primer that was used to teach students or children to read. But it's also full of a lot of stereotypes. It is suggesting that this is the ideal home, middle class, with a father who smiles, with a mother who laughs. Happiness, right? Ideal family must be happy. The ideal parents, they must be there somehow in, somewhere. Maybe they don't play with the kids, but they're there, right? Ideal color and race. I have a picture over here. This is what would have been in the book. So you have to think, what are they saying? Oh, it's not just a middle class, it's a white middle class. Now, why would Toni Morrison start with that? What does she want to show you in the rest of the novel? Keep that in the back of your mind. You can even read this even deeper. Is this the ideal way to be American? Is this ideal America? Like what America is supposed to be? Is that her purpose? I'm not sure, but I want you to think about that and keep that in your mind, because on the next page of this novel, it's the same excerpt, except it's different. In this part, in the top part, you're going to notice it's the same thing, same words, right? Here's the house, except there's no punctuation. And remember, punctuation, that lets us breathe, that lets us pause. So that's one of the differences, right? Why would she do this? So if I read this out loud, here's the house. It is green and white. It has a red door. It is very pretty. Here is the family. My father, Dick, and Jane live in the green and white house. They are very happy. See Jane. Okay. So now I'm like, oh, this is kind of getting weird. To me, it's getting a little creepy. Is that her purpose? Look at the next paragraph. Here is the house. It is green and white. It has a red door. It is very pretty. Here's the family. Mother, father, Dick, and Jane live in the green house in white. I'm not going to keep reading, but you should, because I want you to hear it in your mind. Okay. Here's the thing. That is not just a lack of punctuation. It's all smushed together. So if we go back to the other slide and we say that maybe this is referring to an ideal home, at least as stereotypically, right? The ideal family, ideal way to be American. And then we look at this and we see like a devolvement, right? A breakdown. To me, and maybe to you, is this suggesting, I want you to think about it, a breakdown in the ideal home? Is that what our character is going to go through? The ideal family, there's a breakdown. Something's happening in the family. Ideal parents, ideal color and race. What, you got to think about Toni Morrison is doing this purposefully and intentionally. She's very, very intelligent about how she's doing this. You can go on and you could even think deeper. To me, when I read it, I'm thinking, is this a mental breakdown? Because when I read it, my mind is like, oh my gosh, wait, what's going on? So is it a mental breakdown of a character? Are we going to see the breakdown of a specific character in the rest of the novel? Could this be foreshadowing? Then if we go back to the idea of ideal America, is this the surface beneath America? America wants to portray itself. When she was writing this in the 70s and today, let's be honest, they want to portray themselves or America as a unity, as the best country ever. But we know that that's wrong, that it's not the best country, that there are a lot of problems, but people tend to whitewash history. Is that Toni Morrison's point? I want you to consider that as you continue reading. On the next page is the rest of the prologue. Now, what Toni Morrison does here is she's going to tell you the plot right up front. She's not going to leave. She's going to be like, here it is. This is what happens. You need to question yourself. You need to question why she would do that. So as we read this, I'm going to point to some different things, and then hopefully that kind of gives you a way to go as you start reading in the autumn section. Quiet as it's kept. There were no marigolds in the fall of 1941. We thought at the time that it was because Piccola was having her father's baby, that the marigolds did not grow. A little examination and much less melancholy would have proved to us that our seeds were not the only ones that did not sprout. Nobody's did. Not even the gardens fronting the lake showed marigolds that year. But so deeply concerned were we with the health and safe delivery of Piccola's baby, we could think of nothing but our own magic. If we planted the seeds and said the right words over them, they would blossom and everything would be all right. It was a long time before my sister and I admitted to ourselves that no green was going to spring from our seeds. Once we knew, our guilt was relieved only by fights and mutual accusations about who was to blame. For years, I thought my sister was right. It was my fault. I had planted them too far down in the earth. It never occurred to either of us that the earth itself might have been unyielding. So I'm going to pause here. I want you to notice the parts on the sides in gray. What might the seeds symbolize? Think about what seeds do. They're meant to grow, but you got to put them in the right soil for them to grow. And if it's not the right soil, they're not going to grow. Or maybe they'll grow a little, but then they'll die. What is that? That's a metaphor, right? Or a symbol. What is Toni Morrison saying about soil and growing? And what do kids need to grow, right? You need the right environment. This goes back to our activity that you hopefully are finishing up with your group members. So think about that. Then notice that marigolds, they're repeated multiple times. This is a clue to you that that's a symbol. So one of the things I want you to do is I want you to pause this and I want you to look up culturally, what might marigolds symbolize? Not just in this novel, right? Don't take the easy path, but what are they known for? What kind of plant are they? Are they strong plants? And the fact that they didn't grow, that might be a problem. I want you to think about that. I want you to also consider which words are going to bring up connotative or associations, emotional associations. I've highlighted those in green. Melancholy, sadness. I'm thinking sadness. I'm thinking nervousness almost, right? Did not sprout, that phrase, oh, something didn't grow and something wrong has happened because it didn't grow. Deeply concerned, fights, mutual accusations, unyielding. If a crop is unyielding, the soil is not good enough to grow. It doesn't yield any fruit, okay? So as you're processing this, one of the other things you need to understand is that she tells you right up front, this is what happened. Pecola was having her father's baby that summer. And Claudia is our narrator. She's telling us this. Pecola is very young. So we already know something horrible has happened. This novel is going to have a lot of things that have happened. One of the things I want you to understand is that Toni Morrison is not saying that this happens in all Black families or in all families. She is basically taking, if you listen to my other video, and she's saying what happens when every person in a child's life who was supposed to step up and protect that child, what happens if that never happens? What happens to the child? So I want you to consider that. So it goes on. We had dropped our seeds in our own little plot of black dirt, just as Pecola's father had dropped his seeds in his own plot of black dirt. Our innocence and faith were no more productive than his lust or despair. There's juxtaposition. Innocence versus lust, faith versus despair. Consider, why did Toni Morrison put those together? What does she want? What difference does she really want you to notice? And what is the same? What is the same? What happens between innocence and lust? How are those alike? Start thinking about that. Pause, write your thoughts down. What is clear now is that of all that hope, fear, lust, love, and grief, nothing remains but Pecola and the unyielding earth. Charlie Breedlove is dead. Our innocence too. The seeds shriveled and died, her baby too. There is really nothing more to say except why. But since why is difficult to handle, one must take refuge in how. And here it becomes clear that Toni Morrison's point or purpose is that, yes, this drastic, horrible thing has happened, but the real question is, how did it happen? She wants you to wonder why, but that's difficult. And she wants you to hold a mirror. She's almost holding a mirror up to you as a reader, saying these things really do happen. What does that say about us as society, about you as the reader? So as you continue reading, keep all of these thoughts in your head and remember that you are looking for figurative language, that you are looking for connotative language as you complete your annotations, and prepare to meet next Wednesday with your group.